go. So yeah, have your smushy ball. I think I read an article this morning about fascia, and it just inspired me to, kind of live in that fascial realm, which I feel like I haven't focused on a lot in here lately. And one of the things that I was reading about, it was about pain. The article was about pain, and it was about how when we have a greater sense of proprioception in our body, when we have more capacity to feel ourselves, both on the inside and interoception, and kind of our where we are in space, and what the actions of our moving parts, our joints and our muscles are doing, and our nervous system sense of balance, and just how we are positioned in space. The more heightened these awarenesses are in us, the less our pain receptors can kind of like take the big picture in our brain. So if you think about, if you've ever heard of the term a homunculus, I don't know if that's familiar to any of you, but I've seen a picture of it before. It's a pretty cool picture to see the homunculus of the brain's perception of the body. So if you think of like a body, the homunculus of how much attention our brain gives to different parts of our body. The hands are huge, the tongue is huge, the genitals are huge, the feet are huge, and so much of our other parts of our body are like tiny, like our neck and shoulders, and like, so it's just funny looking, body that kind of shows the mapping of our brain and how much emphasis we give to those parts of our body as far as perceiving them and being aware of them. And this makes sense, like, of course, that all makes sense. But when we heighten our perceptions of our body everywhere, we narrow the window of how much pain can take up. Like if we have this homunculus, and if we want to kind of lessen, not deaden our pain sensors, we need to be aware of pain. It's a warning system in our body. We need to not ignore pain. But if you are dealing with chronic pain of some kind, having awareness of your whole body kind of flourishing in that map of your brain can shrink the pain receptors to be perceived as a smaller input into your brain. So if you're struggling, where like all you can think about is your pain, where it's just really consuming on some level. We all know this feeling. You burn yourself, and suddenly, like, all you can think about is the burn that you have. But chronic pain is exhausting, right? Because it takes up so much of our energy when we're thinking about this. And so, yoga, our practice on the mat, really helps us to engage with a perception of our whole body that is pain reducing and inoculating, kind of protecting us from having those pain sensors be overbearing and overwhelming. So how do we do this? How do we do this in yoga? We do this by a lot of myofascial awareness. So in lots of ways, but sometimes if we can just be slower moving and work with things like this that are going to kind of give us awareness of subtle parts of our body, it's just one of the many tools that yoga offers us to help in this way. So that's just a little bit that I'm reawakening my brain on the fascial realm. So there'll be more coming. But for today, we're gonna just try to feel our bodies and have a sense of a real gratitude for perception in all the ways that perception takes, whether it's interoception, feeling the inner body, proprioception, feeling ourself in space, nociception, feeling pain, knowing when pain exists, and all the other ceptions that are out there. Okay. All right. So let's sit up straight and tall and take a moment to just allow yourself to ground. I don't know what your morning's held, or how for Ruth it's, evening. So let's just take a moment and bring ourselves into the here and now, present moment awareness. And here in Denver this morning, it's cold and snowy. So sense into that as well, the external environment and how it impacts you. Let's take a moment to Feel the groundedness of your sit bones to sense into where you're touching your cushion or your floor or your blanket. And notice if that place is a grounded place. So maybe take a moment to rock back and forth. And this is just a beautiful way of already sensing ourselves in space. So as you roll onto the back of your sacrum and you roll forward onto the front of your sit bones, just pay attention to your pelvic bones and where you'd like to ground into your weight bearing. So find your neutral now. And notice if just that gentle bit of rocking and kind of putting your mind into the sit bones and the sacrum, if it has given you a greater sense of awareness of where you're meeting the ground right now. Notice if you are having an easy time or a challenging time keeping that openness in your spine, the openness in the heart. Can you imagine your bones kind of floating in the matrix of your fascia? You know, you have this structural support where we think our bones are what are holding us up, but really so much is happening in our connective tissues. So imagine that your bones are kind of floating, supported in this web or hammock of connective tissue, so that you don't have to just think of your bones pushing upward to expand, but you can float in a matrix. Melt your shoulders, relax your neck. See what it feels like to loosen any tension in your skull or in your face that might be holding something. Feel expansive across your heart. Feel a sense of softness through your hands. And then infuse your body with your breath. And as you breathe in and out, so what can you feel? What can you sense? So turn the attention toward the inner body. The subtle movement of your breath inside you. Do you feel it in your nose, in your sinuses, in your throat, your trachea? Can you feel your rib cage move? Can you feel your sternum and your collarbones change shape as you breathe? What is the feeling of getting oxygen into your lungs? Can you sense all the way into your lung tissue itself? Feel ready. Let's bring our hands together at our heart and just notice even the simple sensation of touching your palms together, your fingers together. Pay attention to that sensation. Notice symmetry or asymmetry. Notice the softness of your eyes behind their lids. Can you melt the muscles around your eyes? Let's offer an intention. What do you need here in your practice? Relax your hands. Let's find our way onto our mat. All right, so again, you need a rolled towel and you need a smushy ball. Okay, so let's start just lying down on our back. And take a moment to sense into your body and its feeling in space, just lying down. All right, notice how different this feels versus the sitting up that you just did. Where immediately do you feel more in your body? Can you notice the shifting of gravity and the change of that inner structure of your body? Something as simple as lying down. What is shifting? And then reach your arms overhead and find this length in your body where you can reach and open up. Okay. And just try to bring your focus and your attention into the subtle little sensations in your body. And isn't it such a beautiful thing to have mobility? Okay, so as you stretch one side and stretch the other, and you feel that sensation of a stretch, whether it's something you enjoy or not, let's just try to take good, bad out of it and just come into just observing sensation. Okay. And then bring your knees into your chest and notice the shift, what just happened. What is the new sensation that occurs when you bring your knees in? Rock a little bit left to right and notice this all the way in your skull. So let your whole body rock. And as you go left and right, notice what this feels like in your body. It's amazing. You know, we think these things are so subtle, and they are. But our nervous system has so much input when we do something as simple as rocking. And this is, really what that article is talking about is giving your body different impulses, input, different sensations to pay attention to instead of just the standby of a chronic pain. All right, right knee into your chest, left leg long on the ground, and let's feel into your hip first. So just give a good squeeze and notice the compression in your hip joint, the compression in your knee joint. And then let's switch sides, left knee and right leg long. Notice the opening of your right hip and the compression into your left knee and your left hip. So even if these sensations are subtle, see if you can pay close attention to the subtleties. All right, switch sides one more time, right knee in. Also pay attention not just to the immediacy of sensation, but comfort, discomfort, or a sense of familiarity, unfamiliarity, patterning. Do you prefer having your right knee hugged in or your left knee hugged in? So pay attention to all these little subtle things, that the mapping of our nervous system. Let's take a moment to roll around in your ankles, wiggle through your toes, and enjoy the new sensation that's finding its way into this part of your body. So as anytime we move joints, our nervous system has so much input, so much feedback. So let's just pay attention to what that is. All right, and then switch sides. Left knee in, right leg long. Is this your preferred side to hug in or your not preferred side? Are your hands the same way clasped onto your knee, or would you like to change them and feel something different? And then move around in that left ankle and feel the range of motion here. Wiggling your toes, feeling that sense of fullness of your ankle joint. I think we talked about this recently, but dorsiflexion, where you pull your toes toward your knee in this case, or toward your face, and then plantar flexion, pointing your toes. There's lots and lots of studies that if you have decreased range of motion, particularly in your dorsiflexion, that you're much more likely to fall as you age. So let's enjoy the fact that we tend to these ankles every single time we step onto our mat. All right, and then reach out, stretch your limbs wide, expand. Notice where you are in space. Even something as simple as lying down, we have a different sensation here. We're taking up more space. If you were to draw, a bubble around where your edges lie, see if you can sense where that bubble would be touching your fingers and your toes. And then draw your knees into your chest and get small and tuck into a little ball. And then one more time, expanding open, noticing what your body feels like as you open, and exhale, and drawing in one more time.
Put your feet onto the ground, arms out to the side, and let's windshield wiper our knees and pay close attention. What's happening in your spine? What's happening in your pelvis? What's happening in your hips and your femur bones? Does your head inherently, naturally want to turn in opposition of your knees? Can you feel that, full range of twist that wants to happen in your body? Okay. We'll go a little deeper into the twist here. Lift your hips, scoot them to the right, knees up, drop them to the left, and open up into a full twist. You can hang on to the outer knee if you'd like to support yourself. You can turn your head all the way. Breathe deeply and fully. And then we're going to roll all the way to our left side. So our knees are already over there on the left. Palms together now. Adjust your body so that your knees are stacked, your ankles are stacked, your hips are stacked, your hands are stacked. And we're going to open up like a book, twisting open, let your head turn, and then come back all the way. And just notice all this beautiful movement in your spine. Pay attention to all the subtleties of what's moving as you slowly open your arm behind you and turn your head and then close it back up. Are your knees sliding apart from each other? Is your pelvis moving? Is your rib cage moving? How about your shoulder and your neck? Just pay attention to sensation. And then come back onto your back. Put your hips over to the left, knees come up, drop to the right, twist open here. A big breath. Feel your full exhale. Turn your head to the left. And then come rolling all the way to your right side. Readjust. Stack your hands, your knees, your ankles, your hips. And then let's slowly open up to a twist. And exhale to close. Try to slow things down so that you give yourself time to pay attention to subtle sensations. A lot of times, our movement patterns are like giant hammers where we're only aware of big movements or big stressors like a deep squat or running or walking up a flight of stairs or something that's requires a little bit more of us. Whereas these subtler sensations can get lost. All right, let's open back up. Spread your wings. Open up to a star. Exhale, draw your knees into your chest. Head comes up and then release your head down. Let's come to a happy baby. Grab your feet or behind your knees. A little bit of rocking. And let's open up the back of the spine just a little bit here, all the way to your tail. Breathing deeply. Maybe you like to be very still and not rock. Relax and put your feet onto the ground. Let's roll to the side and come up to all fours. I'm going to take my socks off now. So as we come onto all fours, take your time to feel your body move through some cat-cows. Now we've already warmed up the spine some, but just pay attention. Try to be so aware of each vertebrae as it moves. Slow yourself down and take the time to increase the awareness of your subtle sensations. Breathing deeply. Breathing fully. The breath is very much a part of this sense of interoception and proprioception. And then any kind of movement you want to do, you can wag your tail, you can circle through your pelvis, you can move around in your shoulders. Try to just give yourself a little opportunity to bring awareness into sensation. Keep breathing. Stretch back. towards child's pose. Take your hips back deeply toward your heels. Come into as deep of a compression in those hips and knees as your body allows. Walk the hands forward out in front of you and enjoy the way your breath feels down the back of your body. Now let's walk the hands over to one side or the other and feel your way into this deep reach in your side. Take advantage of all this room to breathe. Come back to center over to the other side, feeling into that deep reach in your body. And come back up onto all fours. Feel your body swish around. Move your neck, move your head, anything that feels good. Let's take a fuller twist now. Reach one arm up in the air, pause here so you feel this side of the twist. And then exhale and drop that shoulder down. Breathing deeply. Relax the base of your skull. Try to open up between your shoulder blades. Inhale, bring that arm back up in the air, hand down onto the ground, switching sides, arm lifting high, bring that arm through, twisting to the side here. Big breath in, full breath out. Try to let the breath tell your body something. What is the message, that inner perception and sensation that you get as you breathe deeply? Now, bring that arm all the way back up in the air. Hand comes down onto the ground, and let's find our way up to a dog pose. Stretching your whole body now, and let's notice our hands and our feet. So take a moment to kind of knead the floor like you were a cat, where maybe you pick up, one hand and put it back down, pick up one foot, put it back down, and just notice the sensation underneath your hands and your feet. So much feedback comes from where we touch the ground. So as you get a little comfortable with all four of the points of contact, melt them, yield into the ground, and then push and lengthen through your body, and see if you can have both happen simultaneously, where we're not push pulling, but we're finding those feedback loops of groundedness, of feeling where we're making contact, and the support that gives us to lengthen in our body. Take your time to move your feet if you'd like. Drop one heel, drop the other heel, bend your knee, move your hips, move your shoulders around, rock your head. What it feels gives you a sense of, I'm here, I'm in my body, I'm now. Right, and then walk your feet forward, come to Uttanasana, and let's again just see what this pose offers. Melt your head, maybe bob it a little bit. Inhale for a halfway lift, extending the spine longer. And let's feel our feet. Put your hands on blocks here, and let's lift the toes of one foot, and then lift the toes of the other foot. And just go back and forth, lifting your toes, and notice sensation in your ankles and in your soles of your feet and in your calves. And then come up onto your toes and feel what that feels like to open up your feet in this way. And then drop your feet back down and rock a little bit, up onto your toes, back onto your heels, toes up onto your toes, heels up, back onto your heels, toes up. Just getting your feet to wake up. All right, and then bend your knees, float down again. We've been down a while, so when you come up, notice the changing shape of your body, and what does that do? Do you get dizzy when you come on up? Do you need a moment to kind of let your body feel itself in a standing posture instead of being, tipped over, a head below heart? Okay, now that we're standing, let's just pay attention and notice our body here in space. All that we did on the floor, has it changed how you feel when you're standing versus when you were standing before class? Okay. Feel yourself big in your breath. Notice you're yielding into the ground. Unlock your knees. Feel your belly to receive your breath. And then inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Let's cactus the arms so you feel that expansion across the heart. And then exhale and bring your forearms to touch. Feel the expansion in the back of your body. Inhale, arms back up. Press your hands straight out to the sides. And let's do some rolls through our wrists here. Go a few times each direction. And then wiggle your fingers around, and then a good press to the walls next to you. So lift your fingers high up toward the sky, drop your shoulders, find your breath, pull your arms behind you just a little bit, so draw them back. And then inhale, reach big shoulder circles, bend your knees a little bit when you do this. So we have this sense of all of the joints of our body we're going to get into, every single one of them today. So feel those shoulder joints, and then cactus one more time, and then release your hands down. Give them a good shake. Okay. Pull your fists right up toward your shoulders and give your biceps a little bit of a squeeze, and then release. And a bicep squeeze, and then release. And one more time. Okay, just getting our elbows to have their full flexion too. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Open up across your heart. Lift your chin toward the sky. Shoulder blades toward each other, and then fold forward. You can always grab a strap like I'm doing in between your hands instead of interlacing them. Open up. Let your back start to open up. Feel the heads and the arm bones draw back. Bobble your neck. All right, and then release your arms down toward the ground. Inhale for a halfway lift. Spine is growing. Exhale, melt to fold again. Let's step back, left foot, right foot's in front. And now we'll get into our hips and knees a little bit. So straightening the front leg, maybe your toes lift up, maybe your chin tucks, bending your knee, open the heart. Getting those hips to open up and to compress. Full breaths here. All right, pause in your lunge. Rise up, bring the arms to the sky, feeling that extension and length. Grab onto the left wrist with the right hand, and just open up that side body one more time. Hands down onto the ground, back foot comes forward, a forward fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. Release and melt back down. Step the other foot back, left foot's in front. Open up the right hip, close up the left hip. And then we'll start to move. Maybe you want to lift your toes and tuck your chin as you straighten your leg. Maybe you'd like to keep your foot flat on the ground. Maybe try both. Just sense into what's opening, what's moving. Breathing deeply. All right, ground through your feet. Rise up, crescent lunge. Arms coming up. Lift off your pelvis. Find that deep lunge. Grab onto the right wrist if you'd like, and open up a little bit more. Come back to center. Bring your hands down onto the ground, back to a dog pose. Notice how you come back to poses and how they might feel different. Second time around, come forward into a plank. Shoulder blades down the back. Full breaths into the sides of your body. We'll put our knees down onto the ground. A few shoulder rolls, even though your shoulder blades on your ribs aren't a true joint. It's kind of like a pseudo joint. So feel the mobility of your shoulder blades on your ribs. And then inhale and lift to a cobra pose. Open across your collarbones. Exhale, come back down. Wide arms if you'd like. And just see, maybe this is a little bit different. Exhale and come back down. Up onto all fours. Move your spine. Wag your tail. Go lateral. And just be a fish. Take your left leg straight back behind you, 2 hands on the ground, and we're just going to do some really big hip circles here. So like a reverse breaststroke, think of like a dog marking a tree. See what it feels like to just let your hip move. You can take your hips offline, lift that hip high, and then go the other direction. Don't forget to straighten your leg all the way out and then bring it back in. All right. Then take your straight leg, that left leg, curl your toes under, cross your left leg over to the right, and turn and look out over that foot. Finding some breath, noticing sensation. And coming back to center, come into a child's pose between our 2 sides. Deep compression in the hips. Back up onto all fours. Take the right leg straight back behind you. Let's bring the knee up and around. Let the hip lift as you move that circle in your hip joint. Stabilize with your shin, with your core, with your hands. And then go the other direction. Notice your breath. Notice sensation. All right, and then when you're ready, left foot or right foot straight back. Curl your toes under, cross it over to the left side, and look out over that foot. Come back to center. Wag your tail one more time. And curl the toes under, sit back toward your heels for a moment. Don't come up yet. We're going to come into dog pose, but just stretch through those Achilles. Our toes are curled under and we're dropping back toward our heels as much as our body will allow us. Full breaths. All right, and then come back up. Give a couple taps onto your feet. And then find another dog pose. Long spine. Full breaths here. And then walk your feet forward. All right, interlace your hands behind your head. A little gentle tuck down and in. And then release. Put your hands on blocks and turn sideways to your mat, wide legs. Bend into your right knee and stretch that left inner thigh. Come back up, and you can always have your hands on the floor too if you prefer. Over to the other side. One more time, over to the right, bending that knee. And over to the left. And come back to neutral, wide legs. Ground through the 4 corners of your feet. Lift your sit bones. Bow your head. Just come into the inversion. We're going to come into a squat. Elbows inside your knees. Ground here, root into the four corners of your feet. And then inhale and come up to standing star. Notice your proprioception. Everything's different when you're standing up versus leaning over. Exhale to a goddess. Inhale. Move your arms however you want to move your arms. Pause here on the bottom, reaching one arm over to the side. Coming back to center, ground your legs, reaching arm over to the other side. Ground, feel the roots pulse a couple times. Open your knees. Standing star. Turn back to the front of your mat. A dog pose. Notice how your body's changing. Your awareness of your body is changing. Come forward into a plank. Every time you change the shape, standing, planking, on your back, on your side, all the different ways, this is a lot of feedback for our bodies, for our nervous system. Find the ground. Inhale for a cobra. Melting back down. Come on to your seat or your feet for a moment. Sit back. If this isn't comfortable, sit on a block. And just be here for just a moment. Feel that squeeze in your legs. All right, we're gonna come on to our back. Notice we've done all gentle things so far, right? Well, mostly. And we've just kind of gone through the paces of trying to touch each of our joints. I think we've touched all of our joints. Okay, so notice now, last thing we're gonna kind of open up is the collarbones and the hips before we do some restorative stuff. So let's come to a bridge pose. You can do this passively if you'd like on a block. Focus on opening up the shoulders. Slide those shoulder blades down underneath you. Around the four corners of your feet. Full breaths here. Full inhale. Full exhale. Let's calm down. We're gonna do a lion's pose with our mouth because our jaw, we haven't really opened up our jaw very much. So let's take a deep breath in and we're gonna open up our mouth and stick our tongue down toward our chin and look straight up to the top of your head. Ah. A little different when you do this lying down, but just notice, release your mouth and let's repeat it twice more. One more time. All right, relax. Deep, full breath. Now we just have to rotate our hips and then I think we've gone into all of our positions that we can be in. So let's go ahead and put our right foot on our left knee and come into reverse pigeon pose. If this is not a good posture for you and you'd rather cross your right thigh over your left thigh, that's a good choice too. You can always flip over and do a pigeon pose if you have a desire. Breathing deeply. Now you can be very still and you can also do a little bit of rocking. Put your 2 feet on the ground. Feet are a little bit wider than your hips. Knock your right knee down toward your left foot. Pick up your left foot and put it on the outside of your right knee. So we're internally rotating that femur bone now. We just externally rotated it. Now we're internally rotating it. Come back up. Bring your knees into your chest, rock a little bit, and then put your feet on the ground. Let's switch sides. Let's start with the internal rotation. So feet a little bit wider. We're going to drop our left knee toward our right foot. Pick up your right foot, put it on the outside of your left knee. Of course, support your knees anywhere you need with a block. And enjoy a little bit of internal rotation of that left hip. Pick that up and let's put our left foot on our right knee for reverse pigeon pose. Grab your back of your thigh or front of your shin, or maybe you're crossing your left thigh over your right thigh. Whatever you're doing, try to relax your head. Full breaths here. Melt into your breathing. You're still, maybe you're moving. All right, and then release. Put your knees together, pick up your head, round the spine a little bit, and then release to come down. Now we're gonna grab our ball. Okay, let's start with putting this under our right rib. So I think half full or so with the ball. So we've touched into all the joints now in the body, and now we're going to touch into the ribs and into the breath and try to get that interoception to be alive and well for our breathing. Okay, so take the ball kind of close high toward your armpit. You can always have a block underneath your head to support you. Bend your knees, kind of get into a comfortable side lying position. And you can experiment with where you like this ball. Really, you can't go wrong, right? We're just trying to feel. All right, so first we're just gonna roll on this. We're gonna kind of rock forward toward our chest and rock back. There's a lot of lymph here, so let's pay attention to sensation, not just in, your breathing and your ribs, but all that tissue that's near your armpit. And then be still. You can put your other hand high on your ribs on the other side so that you can kind of find a hoop and breathe deeply in, expand your ribs. Hold that for just a moment and then exhale. One more big breath like that. Hold. And just allow your body to relax and breathe. This myofascial release work, it takes time, and it also takes our ability to just relax, to not feel like we have to guard or grip or hold, but to feel that feeling of release. Move the ball down now to a little bit lower on your rib cage. And then we'll roll again, just a little bit rolling back and a little bit rolling forward. And then pause, maybe hand on the opposite rib so you find that mirroring connection. Deep breath in. Hold that expansion. And then melt. One more time. And then melt. Maybe you want to make some noise as you breathe. What does this feel like in your body? Are you noticing your diaphragm having any release? Are you noticing, what are you noticing? Anything at all? And now we're gonna move the ball so that it's at your side waist. Hopefully it's not too inflated. So we're kind of in between our ribs and our pelvis. And again, we're gonna rock forward and back. There's a lot that goes on in here that can impact your low back, your psoas, your transverse abdominis, your quadratus lumborum, your obliques. A lot of muscles that you're touching into right now, not to mention your organs, all the way into your spine. Okay, hand on your side waist. Puff out your side waists. And then release on your exhale. One more time. Big breath in, puff into your sides. And then release. If the ball's too inflated, this will not be a happy place for you to be. And just let yourself breathe. And you, of course, can find very specific spots. You know, like I like to kind of roll a little bit sometimes toward my psoas. So if you bend your top leg and put your knee on the ground and just let the ball roll into your belly just a little bit, maybe a little rolling back and forth. There's so much exploration that can happen here. All right. And then come rolling onto your back. Let your body relax for a minute and notice. All right, we're gonna do all that on the other side. So if you're starting to get chilled, this is a good time to take a pause and put socks on or put a sweater on. All this can happen with a sweater on. And when you get to the other side, same things apply. Bend your knees, head is supported. Was your ball too full? Do you need to change its compression? Okay, we're gonna put our ball in our upper rib cage, kind of close to our armpit. Oh, now get used to this side, everything's a little different. Take a moment to let your body rock and roll over that roll. Notice what you're feeling. You have different organs on this side of your abdomen. You know, your spleen and your pancreas are on this side. Well, not, we're not touching them yet, but your left lung, your heart is a little closer. So just notice. And then we'll bring our hand onto our rib if you want. Take a deep breath in. Hold that expansion. And then exhale. Melt. One more time. And then just pause here for a few breaths. Remember all these tissues that you have in your armpit area, you have a lot of lymph. How's your breath? And now we'll roll the ball down just a little bit lower on our rib cage. Have a little rocking forward and backward, kind of just exploring these ribs. You have lots of muscles in between your ribs, so much fascia. And the ribs are very mobile, so notice the mobility. When you're ready to be still, hand on your ribs in opposition of that ball. Big breath, hold, exhale and release. One more time. And then just allow yourself to receive. Receive the ball, melt into the ball, let your body be breathed. And you sense into that deep interoception. What are you perceiving on the inside of your body? Now the last position, we'll take that ball underneath our side waist. Okay, is it deflated enough? Sometimes, that it can be a little bit different here than in our rib cage. And rock a little bit. And know that you're touching a lot. Okay, so sense into that. What are you feeling on the inside of your body? Get to know what's in there. Hands on your waist. Puff your right side bodies out. And then exhale to release. One more. And just relax here. And what are you noticing? What are you noticing about your internal organs? What are you noticing about your fascia? About your skin? About your muscles? About your breath? About your spine? Just try to sense into everything. There's so much happening. Again, if you wanted to roll a little bit more toward your belly, you can. All right, two more positions. Put it under your sternum. There's so much more we could do. I say that every time we do this, don't I? Put it under your sternum, hands underneath your head, and you kind of just have to adjust where it is. Sometimes right below your breasts. If you just ate, that won't feel good. Sometimes right above, just see what feels nice. Your diaphragm does not have a lot of sensory capacity. So let this enhance it a bit. All right, come back into child's pose. And this is optional. This last position is optional. We're gonna go right from here into Shavasana. Didn't have time for the roll towel today. Sorry, everybody. And we're gonna put this underneath our sacrum if you want, or you might be like, I'm ready for Shavasana. I just want to lie down. But if you want to put the smushed ball under your sacrum for a moment and put your feet on the ground and just let your body breathe. You know, there's so much subtlety of balance. I know you all have done core work with me with this ball underneath you. So keep your feet planted, but notice how this is subtle. You're subtly moving a little bit. Full breath. Full breath out. Notice the change in your perception of your ribs, of your lungs. And if you want to bring your knees to your chest for a little bit of mobile traction, great. Otherwise, we can come off the ball now and come on to our back. Take Shavasana, warm yourself up, put support in any place in your body that you need it. The ball work on our ribs is very nourishing, not only to our lungs and the fascia in our rib cage and all that, but also to our parasympathetic nervous system. So when you come into Shavasana, notice if you feel, just a subtlety of relaxation. If you're cold, cover yourself. Cold is not relaxing. And anything that's touching you that you don't want touching you, move away from you. Just take a moment to let your body drop toward the ground. Be conscious of what it feels like to relax. Notice sensation. Offer melting to yourself. Begin to breathe deeply. Invite movement however you want to.
As you find your way to your side and up to your seat, let's take a moment to just feel yourself. Is your body map a little bigger? Is your, that sensing of yourself a little more expansive? Is your breath different? Is your sense of awareness of groundedness different? So try to pay attention to the subtle beauties of your practice. It doesn't always have to be, whipping through the standing poses. There's so much that we receive. Let's place our hands together at our heart. Whatever merits you've gained, whatever presence you've cultivated, let's send this outward, send it forth to another. Namaste. Thank you, everyone.